Welcome to 3 Questions, where critical thinking is king, and my opinions and research are only here to support your learning and understanding. Hey, I'm your host, Megan, and I am so honored you clicked on today's special episode of 3 Questions because I'm doing things a little bit different today. So, based off a lot of the feedback I got from the Pilates business episode, who do you want to be when you grow up, and the recent episodes of dealing with stress, I've been getting a lot of questions, so I sent out a questionnaire to all of my followers, and if you did not get the email but want to get on my email list, I will have Joe put a link on that on the show notes. And I asked you guys to ask me 3 questions about business. Now, out of all the questions that I received, I feel like we've got about 30 different questions. I picked 3 of them to answer today. And I am going to also flip the script to kind of ask you guys the questions as well. So this way we can kind of all critically think together. But before I get into the questions, I have to give a shout out to the Circle of Friends Cafe in Belmar. Circle of Friends is a non-for-profit organization that provides activities, and the cafe specifically employs adults 18 and older with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It is run by my really great friend, Katie McNulty. Shout out to Katie. And she does an amazing job running this business with her husband and other people, and they really rely on donations to put these events out. So what I'm going to do is put a link in the chat, and when you donate, just write in the note 3 Questions Podcast, and I am going to match every donation that is made with the mention of the podcast for eternity, so not just this month. So donate. It is an amazing organization. And if you're in Belmar, New Jersey, make sure you check out that cafe. The food is really good. The company is even better. They have a lot of fun there. And you can get yourself a cool sweatshirt. All right. So, ask Meghann anything. This one was my favorite, and a lot of people asked it in different ways. Some of the ways people worded the question was a little passive-aggressive, and let me explain. The question I'm going to answer was, how do you stay so focused? Which I think is hysterical. But a lot of people said, it seems like you do so much. How do you manage it all? And why I hate that question, it insinuates that I've got more hours in the day or have these magical powers that other people don't have. So number 1, I am not special. I am not that extraordinary in any way. I think my superpower is really working in my zone of genius and understanding what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, and not trying to confuse those things. So how do I stay so focused? Well, focus is really challenging for me because my brain is always moving at a very fast pace. I'm sure a lot of you guys can understand that. But I also have figured out ways to manage that. Maybe this will resonate with you. I felt like I was always the kid who would take all this time to get organized, but was never organized. I would be so excited to get school supplies, buy a Trapper Keeper, or color code things, or set up my desk, or do all these things. But it was all in the preparation. All those organization models never worked for my brain. I will make a list, and I will literally never go back to that list. If you looked at my notes app on the phone, you'd be like, what is going on here? Okay? So for me, what I had to realize was organizational systems don't work for me. And then they'll be like, oh, are you someone who has trouble staying organized? Try this. It's a clever marketing scheme created by someone who probably had a family member, a sibling, or a child who was so unorganized, but they're organized. So they're trying to teach this unorganized person how to be organized the way they organize. And that shit don't work. My brain don't work like yours. See this painting above? You kind of don't get to see it all. That's my brain. It's organized chaos. I have leaned into that hard. My house, my studio is never going to be traditionally organized. But I don't let that bother me. I'm one of those people who creates piles, and when that pile gets big enough, she empties those piles. I also have people in my life, like my mother-in-law, who is amazing. And when she stays at our house, when I'm traveling or watching the dog, she'll be like, hey, would it be okay if I reorganized your kitchen? I was like, have at it, Patty. No insult taken. And she's not doing it because she thinks I'm doing a bad job. She is very organized and loves doing that stuff. Or maybe my disorganization makes her stressed. But, I can't control that. I'm not going to change, right? And she's never said that to me. And, she seems to love me enough, so it's all good. So, Patty, I'm sorry if my disorganization stresses you out. Not my intention. But I do appreciate that you're always helpful with it. Now, how do I stay so focused? Well, I prioritize. And this was advice from a client. I said to him, as my business grows, I am pulled in so many different directions. How do I stay on top of things? Lists don't work for me, Joe. Traditional stuff don't work for me. And he said, easy. What has to be done first? What do you mean? Well, when is that due? When is that due? Do what needs to be done first. And this was the best advice I've ever gotten, and I am going to give to you. So how can you stay focused? Well, you have to figure out what your brain likes and what it can tolerate and what it can't. That's number one. But the best advice I can give to you is flip what you're actually doing. This is the biggest mistake I see people make in business. In business, they focus on what they want to do, not what they need to do. And then for their clients or in life, they focus on what they need to do and not what they want to do. So flip that shit. When it comes to business, I don't care you want to shoot that social media post. I don't care that you want to write that course. What do you need to do right now? So for example, today, I have a list of things I have to shoot. However, I had to shoot the podcast episode first. You know why? Because that has to go out first before the other things. Did I want to sit down and do the podcast episode and have to set up all my wires and this stuff like that? No, I did not really want to shoot a podcast episode today. But that needed to be done first. It was non-negotiable. I even looked at my calendar and I said, can I shoot the podcast episode tomorrow morning? And when I looked at my calendar and saw the clients on my calendar, I said, nope. And why I said nope was energy expenditure. I have some of my more challenging clients personality-wise tomorrow. So I'm going to need my morning to clear my brain, sit with my cup of coffee, and not feel rushed. If I had a easy day of clients, I might have said, okay, I'm going to get up and shower, do the podcast episode, blah, 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 and blah. Okay? So prioritize what you need to do, not what you want to do. Non-negotiable. To me, that is a non-negotiable thing in my business. And I see all my mentees, my students, I see other businesses struggle with this. Just make it non-negotiable. And in life, something that I am personally working on is not doing what I need to do, but do what I want to do. So in my personal life, for a long time, I was like, I really should cook, but I don't want to cook. I want to sit and have this extra downtime. Well, luckily, I've been able to shift some things in my schedule. So I have a little more downtime in the morning when I love downtime, so that at the end of the day, I don't feel like I need the downtime. And I am happy to report I am not cooking religiously, but I have been cooking more. And I have not ordered DoorDash in like 3 weeks. Maybe it was 2 weeks. Maybe it was like a week and a half, but it like feels like forever. So I just thank everybody. And this is big for me. Okay? So how do I stay focused? Well, I don't fight my brain. I follow my brain. I do what I need to do in business, not what I want to do. And in my personal life, I prioritize what I want to do and then do what I need to do. Question 2. I actually really like this one, and I'm just going to give you the ugly truth. How do you handle fear or jealousy? Because I hate to admit I find I get annoyed or envious when I see other people doing what I do, but not as well. This was a direct question from someone. How do you handle fear or jealousy? Because I hate to admit, I do get annoyed or envious when I see other people doing what I do, but not as well. So I'm just going to kind of break this question down. So number one, the end of the question is what stood out to me. I promise I will address the beginning of the question, honestly. I get annoyed or envious when I see other people doing what I do, but not as well. If this question resonated with you, stop sitting in the sidelines. Do the thing. They're not doing it as well as you? Well, they're doing it. What are you doing? You're not doing anything. Okay? So number one, if you're envious of people doing things that you think you're doing better, do the thing. Now, you might be like, but I'm already doing the thing, but nobody knows about it. Well, does that really matter? Most of you guys don't know half the shit I do behind the scenes. Mostly because I don't really think anybody really cares that much. And for me, sometimes on social media, it just feels disingenuous and like people are bragging, like, look at me. That just makes me feel uncomfortable, and that's what I roll my eyes at. I'm like, oh my God. That's not what I'm about. So I tend to hold that stuff back. But if I see someone doing something that I think I can do it better, I'll just do it better. So people not knowing what you do isn't going to stop you. But the right people knowing what you do needs to be out there. Okay? So the second part of the question, if you're getting envious because you think you're better than other people, I really do think you need to check yourself. Number one, that sounds like ego to me. And ego comes from insecurity. You might not be insecure about the thing you're doing, but you're insecure about something. We're all insecure about something, right? And that's okay. But the beginning of the question, how do I handle fear or jealousy? Well, two things. I am very, very lucky. I have an amazing group of girlfriends from college where this wasn't in high school. I haven't seen this after. I don't know how I got so lucky. Like, we're weirdly non-competitive with each other. I feel like there's never been jealousy. We kind of champion each other. We're all very different and kind of lift each other up. I don't know how I got so lucky. I even transferred into University of Scranton, and I started at Providence College. I'm grateful for my girlfriends at Scranton. They've made me a better person, a better friend, across the board. So right there, surround yourself by women or men or someone, if they don't identify on either, that is fine. Someone, doesn't matter. Surround yourself with people who lift you up and lift themselves up. People who have their own life, their own thing. That to me is super important. If you surround yourself by people who gossip and talk shit and tear people down, that's what you're going to be like. And don't get it wrong. Like, we gossip all the time, but I always say it's like lighthearted chit-chat, never mean-spirited. It's like if you have to tear somebody down to lift yourself up, you ain't that great anyway. I kind of have a rule on social media. I see shit I don't like all the time on social media. I see people spouting shit that is such bullshit. And I have a rule. I always go do something else. I never do call out posts or negative posts or like an overlay talking about someone's post. If you have to literally take someone else's creativity and then put it on blast to put yourself out there, I frankly think that's lame and pathetic. And if you do that, that's fine. You do you. I'm just not going to do that. I think my work and what I do speaks for itself. And if it doesn't speak for myself, I would do something else. And if that sounds arrogant, well, it's been a lifetime of learning, getting in the weeds, continuing my education, something I do talk about, but I don't love talking about because I haven't finished my doctorate yet. I'll talk about it when it's all done, right? I don't like talking about things that aren't done. But that being said, I do get a little green-eyed, or I wouldn't say jealous, but kind of annoyed when I see things on social media. And what I always do, I find this is really helpful. Why is that jarring me? What is it about that? Is it the person? Is it the actions or what they're saying? Often the things that upset me are former students or people that I have shared information with that still don't credit or act like things were their own idea. That's what really bothers me, because I go out of my way for my students. I don't want people freaking crediting me every time they speak. That's not what I want. But there's a certain vibe, and it's a certain person, and it's happened, and I can list their names down in my head of things they do that I think are shady, and people don't know they're shady. And it kind of, when I see that, it stiffens me up, it tightens me up, and I then go, if I never saw this post, I would never be thinking about it, right? So that's how I deal with it. Because it's hard when you see somebody doing something that hurts you, or maybe you feel misunderstood, or sometimes there's been situations that things have bothered me, and I'm like, why is that person bothering me so much? And I go, because that's who you used to be. You were like that when you were younger too. And you have shifted, you've adjusted, you've overcome it, but she's still there a little bit. You ain't perfect, Meghann. I know that. So it's like the things, I see this with parents. I even know this with my dad and I. I always felt my dad was a little harder on me than he was with my sister. And maybe my sister thinks the opposite of our mom to her. But I realize my dad and I are so similar. I think that, I don't think I know, we've discussed it. The things he saw in me that he didn't love about himself, he was kind of hard on me about. And I think I'm like that with other people. So if there's something that I've done in the past that like my mistakes weigh on me, I think about them a lot, right? There's some mistakes I made in business that's not the person I want to be. And I've learned from them. And I said, I will never make that mistake again, but it still sits with me. So when I see other people making those mistakes, or kind of being a bit of a people pleaser or playing both sides, it really jars me. But that's more about me. So how do I deal with fear or jealousy? Is honestly, I do go internally. I'll talk to my therapist about it. I'm like, this person's really pissing me off. And I'll hear myself talking. I'm like, we've had this conversation before. I know I'm still in it a little bit. Because that's the truth. We're all, I don't know, adjusting, growing. I read Chelsea Handler's newest book, and it was so, I think I've talked about it in another episode. There was a part of it that just fucking resonated with me so hard. She was talking about like all her actions. Is that the person I strive to be? So like every day, every choice I make, is that the person who I want to be? Like, so every day we're kind of striving to be that person, and we don't hit the mark every time. Trust me. Something I say to all my students, and feel free to take this, adjust it however you want. I'll say, if you ask me a question and I seem annoyed, it's because I am annoyed, but not at the question. I'm annoyed at myself. Why am I annoyed at myself? Because I don't like feeling misunderstood. A lot of time to try to be clear. I study the work, educational theory, neuroplasticity. I read, I dig in, I try different word combinations to try to be crystal clear. And when a student says, well, you said you should never do this, or when they ask me the same question over and over again, I get frustrated. And I used to be like, oh, I'm not mad. It was like obvious in my face, you could see I'm mad. So instead of lying and saying I'm not annoyed, I'll own it. I am annoyed right now. But I'm not annoyed at you. I'm annoyed because I'm really trying to be clear, and obviously I'm not clear. I also can snap. I'm allowed to not respond perfectly all the time. I am a human. I feel like sometimes women aren't given that luxury, right? A man can yell at someone and whatever, but like if I yell at someone, I'm a bitch, right? It's just the way it is. That's not going to change. And I know women generations above me had it way worse. Thank you for paving the way, and hopefully I can continue to pave that road. But it is true. I don't have to always be 100% who you want me to be. I'm whoever I want to be. And giving myself that permission has kind of been super freeing. But you've got to be honest about it. You got to be honest where you are. I'm very open with my students. You know, last year was very hard for me with my dad being sick with cancer and his cancer's back. Like, family comes first to me. So if I'm a little short, I apologize because I try to do a really good job at not bringing my personal life into work, but it slips in there every once in a while. Yeesh, right? So I think just owning it and admitting it and being more self-reflective. Do I want to be fearful? Do I want this person to be less successful? Is that going to make me feel better? No. What is it about this person that's jarring? What is it about something they're saying? And I always say to my students, when you see someone who says something you don't like, just do another post and just give your information and let people choose. That's what this world is about. Okay? So I hope you got your answer for question 2. I didn't mean to be hard on the person who asked the question, but how it was worded, my fear is that you're feeling left behind. You're not left behind. It's never too late to start something. And if you're as good as you say you are, and you probably are because you're on my list, so you're probably awesome, tell people, share it. And maybe look at that person's post and say, hey, how can I maybe explain this in a different way to my audience? So you don't have to take their information and do like a talking head and be like, this person sucks. You can just say, hey, I've been thinking about this and this is what my take is it. And just own it. It's okay to be envious or jealous or something like that, but please understand, it takes a lot of time and energy to put out social media posts, podcasts, run a business. I don't have this glamorous life. I mean, I do have a wonderful life. Brian and I just got back from vacation. And I said, my dad always said this, there's no place like home. And I said, I feel like we've created a life I don't need a vacation from. And I feel like when I was young, I was always going on vacations thinking I might feel better, and I never did. I feel like I'm proud. We had a really relaxing vacation, and I'm just so happy I've created a life that I don't need a vacation from. But that doesn't mean it's always so glamorous. It is a lot of hard work. I put a lot of time into it, but I love what I do. So I think that really is the truth of the matter. And question 3. I feel like there is so much advice out there, and I don't know who to listen to. Do you have any business mentors, and if so, who? I feel like there's so much advice out there, and I don't know who to listen to. Yes, you do. You do know who to listen to. Listen to people who share from experience, and listen to the people who have achieved the things that you want to do. So what are your goals? Find somebody who has achieved that goal and then ask them all the questions. What I always find super interesting is success. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's kind of laid out a little bit. Most people just don't take the steps and they skip steps to success and think they can do it different and better. People will ask Mariska, how'd the Neuro Studio get so big? Well, I've been teaching this works for over 20 years. And we've been teaching the Neuro Studio courses since 2013. And when we started, sometimes we taught to 3 people. I have taught courses to 2 people. I have taught courses to 100 people. I have taught courses to 7 people. I did not say no. We did not cancel classes. We would go, we would teach, we would connect, we would get better. There's no such thing as an overnight success. That overnight success has been brewing for often 20 years. And I don't think people are honest about that. So don't listen to people who are selling you ways to improve their business who have no actual businesses you've ever heard of. I see this in the Pilates and movement community, these business mentors, or I'm going to teach you how to run a Pilates studio, yet they've never run a Pilates studio, or their Pilates studio was one-to-one sessions. Do you want to have an online studio where you can travel? Well, talk to someone like me who has a very successful one. Brick and mortar, I didn't have a financially successful brick and mortar studio, so don't ask me about that. But I will tell you how to create a different business model or what I would do for the brick and mortar business now based off a P&L sheet. The Pilates business model, frankly, never was good, yet people kept doing it as if it was their fault. Okay, and now there's even venture capital in these bigger companies, but when you look at it, they're not actually making money. Ask to see a P&L sheet. Someone who's offering you a quick fix or to get new followers quickly, it's all bullshit. They are making money teaching you to do something that they never actually did. I always laugh when someone will like solicit me like a social media person and they've got like 2,000 followers. You want to increase my followers, yet you only have 2,000 followers? Explain to me how this works. So you know who to listen to. Be honest, we all want a quick fix. I would love a quick fix. Hello? Wouldn't it be lovely to win the lottery? Except for the fact every lottery winner, always something bad happens. That never ends well. Nothing meaningful in life comes easy or quick. And when it does, often it's not what we thought it would be anyway. So you do know who to listen to. Someone who's achieved your goal, who doesn't spout bullshit, is going to tell you the ugly truth and not just kiss your ass. In the last episode, we were talking about niching down. I had to tell one of my students, pretty much, I love that niche, but you have to pepper up your skill set. And I know that probably hurt her feelings, but that was true. Because to be successful at the niche she wanted to be, you have to be able to do X, Y, Z. And when I was working with her, she couldn't get me to do X, Y, Z. So I think that would be pretty important. Not because she wasn't good, but we had to clear up her framework, figure out what she's focused on, really get in the weeds of that. And she is working on it. And I know it will be successful if she keeps at it. So the second part of that question is, do I have a business mentor? And if so, who? I have a few, not on my payroll. My dad is a business mentor of mine. He is about to retire, which is super exciting. His staff was throwing him a surprise party, but he found out, so it's not a surprise anymore. Not like he listens to my podcast anyway. But I worked for my dad for 4 months, and he was a great boss. Very fair. The opposite of passive aggressive. He could be argued to be aggressive, but if he did something bad, he would tell you. If he did something good, he would tell you 3 times, and he would let things go. He demanded high quality, but he was the first one in, the last one out. He led by example. He treated his staff well. Every year, his staff would come to my parents' house for a barbecue. Like, I know all his staff. They all loved him. He really wasn't great with like lunch breaks because he's like me, we're like not a big eater. But like if you ever on a call with my dad, he always had a thing of candy ready and waiting for you. And he always put family first. And he felt his staff always put family first. His business mentor, he talks about it in the podcast episode I did with him. He was like, my dad is like, my mom was more fun in the podcast if you listen to those episodes. I think he was nervous because he really wanted to do a good job. But my dad is like super funny and sarcastic. And it didn't play as my sister and I were both like, Dad, you could have been funnier. But anyway, his business mentor, Dick Rosenberg, my dad started out as an accountant. And Dick Rosenberg, his family owned a supermarket company, and they brought my dad in, and he worked his way up to be the CFO of that company. And something my dad shared in the podcast was, I think the Rosenbergs had 26 ShopRites. And Dick would go down and he would say hello to everybody in the store. The people bagging the groceries, the guy at the meat counter, he knew everybody's name. Every person was a critical part of that business, whether you were putting groceries in a bag, whether you were moving carts, or whether you were the CEO. Every person played a role in that company. And he treated them well, like family. And my dad saw that and emulated that. And by watching my dad and my mom run our family and working for my dad for a short period of time, I kind of picked that up. I mean, when I had my first Pilates studio, I was paying, this is like in 2006, some of my Pilates teachers were making almost $85 an hour. I paid them really well, which is also why I didn't make a lot of money, but nobody ever didn't show. Nobody sold clients. They covered for me, especially when I was sick. I appreciate every single Ann, 2 Anns, Emily, Tara, I am blanking on people's names. It was 2006. I have a bad memory. I'm going to blame my concussion. But I'm just so grateful for everybody who worked for me at my studio. So number one, my dad, because it was all about family first, and you can run a successful business ethically. You'll never be a millionaire or a billionaire, but who cares? More money, more problems. Another business mentor I have is one of my clients. He, with his father, started a business with nothing. They took a lot of risks. They had this commercial when I was a kid. I don't want to give it away because if you're local, I just want to keep his privacy. But I know I can spout the commercial. And when I was at the house, I was like, I know that guy in a picture. And the wife said the commercial. I was like, you're those people? Him and his wife always put family first. Generous, kind, amazing people. Built a financially successful company ethically, which I think is very hard to do. I asked him a lot of questions. He admitted to me, he's like, I had to work like a dog when I was young. He was honest about it. He told me how he prioritizes. I think I talked about in this previous episode of doing what your business needs, not what you want first. Oh, no, I think that was question 1. I talked about that. I have like the worst memory. I'll say to my students, remember that class we did? I was wearing the red shoes. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. And then they were like, Meg, that was like 2 years ago. And I was like, oh, sorry. Anyway, but I feel like he's a really good sounding board when I ask him questions. He's always honest. And again, he's someone those are 2 men in my life from a business standpoint that I admire. From a business standpoint, as a man of that generation and as a father. I also look at my sister and my mother who run their own businesses of running a family. My sister also works. My mom did not work when we were younger, but just the ability to manage a family. I said something about being a mom. It's like an unpaid internship. Nobody says anything unless something's not done. I think a mom is the toughest and most honorable job you can have. So all you moms out there, keep going, hang in there. They'll appreciate it one day, but I know that's not why you're doing it. And last but not least, I don't really take business advice from anybody on social media unless I know them personally. I have the person I call on when I want to talk things about my business is Shantae. She's known as the Movement Maestro. She's someone that gets me. She's been there, done that. She understands what's important to me. So she's someone that can be a sounding board to me. So I talk to her and I pay her for her time. I will not ask for any unsolicited, any free advice from her. I value her too much, although she has given me free advice in the past. If you want to run an online business, someone that Shantae works with, Jill, her handle is Jill Fit. I joined one of their mastermind groups, Shantae and Jill, mostly because we had a change at the neuro studio and had to let a staff member go, and I had to take over her job, so I needed to learn what her job was. And I found Jill's formula of email marketing and stuff like that, and the proof is in the pudding. Her business made a lot of money. It was different than mine, but I learned a lot. But Shantae is really the person I will bounce ideas off of, even this podcast. And I even said to her, we talked about my goals of the podcast. And what was really important to me is having a voice to my material to protect my intellectual property. But the reason I started this podcast is not financially. It's I want to see more critical thinking in the movement industry, in the business of it, and I just wasn't seeing it and wanted to create an environment to make it happen. I think some days, some episodes I do better than others. Obviously, this one is not really fostering a ton of critical thinking. I'm sharing a lot of my experience, but hopefully within my voice, you can see something in yourself, or, maybe it'll trigger you to do something different. I hope that will come out of this episode. So, without further ado, because you guys have lives and you don't need to be hearing me yapping all the time. So, to wrap a bow around it, how do we stay focused? Prioritize what needs to be done, not what you want to do. Number 2, how do you handle jealousy, fear, envy, all that stuff? Look inward. There's a reason why it's making you feel a certain way. And you might not be in a place to receive that right then and there. You can also just not like someone. I don't have to like every woman, man, or person I come in contact with. I can think they suck. That's okay. I'm sure there's people out there who think I suck. But their opinion of me is none of my business. So, be self-reflective and take action. Don't sit on the sidelines and be a hater. I will not tolerate that. And I don't think the person who asked this question meant it that way, although it did viscerally come across that way to me. So sorry if I answered it that way in the beginning. And last but not least, you know who to listen to. Ask yourself why you're not listening. Maybe you're not ready. Maybe you don't have the energy or time to allot to what you do, and that is okay. I say to a lot of my students who are new moms at different stages, I say, you can always do this thing. You will never have that time back. I would hope for all of you, I work on this myself, as being super present, which I find challenging sometimes, especially when we're always thinking about the next thing. But remember, there is no rush. You'll do it when you're ready. You know who to listen to. I shared, find someone you love and respect. Find someone who has done the thing that you have done, and then hire them. Tell them how to do it. Befriend them. Ask them questions. They will help you. If any of you there want my help, I am happy to do that. And find yourself like someone like I have, Shantae, who is a friend that I trust, but I also value her opinion, and then I pay her. I value that. And that time we get real focused, it's stuff where I can just like verbally diarrhea out. And a good mentor, a good listener will kind of just echo back what you say and then just be like, hey, here's what I'm hearing. Here are some fears I have. Where's that? And then you go from there. You guys have everything you need. And if there's anything more I can do to help, please reach out. Next week, we're going to go back to asking you 3 questions. And if you like this episode, I will do more of these. But if we're like, nah, not for me, tell me, give me feedback. We'll go back to the other formula because I prefer asking you guys questions. All right, my friends, I will see you next time. Do what you need, not what you want. Just kidding. It was the opposite. No, is it? No, that was right. Do what you need to do, not what you want to do. Oh, my God. I always screw up sayings and saying them backwards. I actually said it correctly and assumed I said it backwards. So, let's rewind the tape. So, hopefully after this episode, you're a little less jealous, you know who to ask for advice, and you're a little more focused because you're focusing on what you need to do, not what you want to do. Adios, friends.